All right, everybody. This is my first ever Locked On Steelers live NFL draft show. I'm your host, Chris Carter, as usual. Normally, this is just a show where I'm breaking it down and pre recorded and I edit it on the back end and then we get it out there. But we are here live today, just giving you guys an update on where we're at here. Now, I've received questions, so hope this show will stay on our YouTube page. So hopefully, those who have had a chance to view our our page before, and those who have checked out Locked On Steelers before and have left questions get to see I was answering your questions and I was getting this out there, but wanted to give you guys something that would be along the lines of a live show update. Now, of course, the NFL draft gets started very soon here, but we wanted to give you a pre-look. This will go for about 30 minutes, just me breaking it down, giving you guys a look-see at how I'm doing things here. Now, I want to start off by I went over a final mock draft, a final first round mock draft where there was involving no trades and just how things broken down. By this way of doing this, now this is a little small because it's PFF, but by this way of doing this, I have the Steelers. If you see right around that 20 spot, I do have the Steelers picking Malik Willis at the 20th spot overall. But hear me out. This is a no trades mock draft here, and there will be trades. So don't think that just because I'm picking Malik Willis to go to the Steelers that I'm saying it's definitely going to happen. My prediction here is that teams get aggressive, they get risky, and that there's a bunch of top 10 trades and then some trades in the teens, and that's what gets the Steelers into a position where they see a Kyle Hamilton or a Jordan Davis type of prospect that they normally wouldn't get a chance at available in a tradable range, and they go and make that move. Or B, Malik Willis gets selected earlier than they anticipated, and that kind of forces them to sit back and say, all right, who do we naturally get without moving too much? So that's where I have things playing out. I do have first overall Travon Walker going to the Jaguars. I had a person telling me, give me information that Ikomokwanyu was going to be the guy. It was going to be Icky, the offensive tackle that could also be a guard that everyone's like, oh, he's so explosive. I'm just going back and forth. Travon Walker to me is the overall, if ever, highest ceiling player in this class. When you look at his build and what he could be a Myles Garrett plus type of guy in the NFL, and you want to take your shot at those type of players. So, like I said, we have been getting questions from all of you at our Locked On Steelers call-in number, which again is 412-223-6644. If you ever want a chance to call in, call that number 412-223-6644. The biggest question, and I've received so many questions that are along these lines. The biggest question is, do the Steelers take Malik Willis, and why would they if there's so many other players that are at a higher value at other positions? We had a caller call in, Rick from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, who called in with this very question. Here's Rick.
Chris, this is Rick calling from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Love the show, listen all the time. When it comes to the draft and drafting 20th overall, I'm wondering why even consider drafting a quarterback. I understand Malik Willis has a very high upside, but there's so much talent everywhere else, such as the receiver, the cornerback, and the offensive line and defensive line positions. I don't even know why quarterback would be considered at this point when you sign Trubisky. Why not draft somebody like Zappy out of Western Kentucky in like the third or fourth round just to get some competition and a fresh arm in the quarterback room, but then go after somebody like one of the higher end receivers or corners or D line. I mean, even Zion Johnson, and really beef up the offensive line. I just think there's better talent than the quarterbacks offer, and why would you waste that quality of a pick on a quarterback and not load up other positions of need? All right, thanks.
Thanks to Rick for his question. Also, if you want to drop comments and ask questions there in the comment section of this live video, you can do so. Want to shout out people that are hitting us up. Lufu, thanks for the what's up. What's up to everybody who made it here. It is indeed draft night. Yes, Kenneth, I am feeling your excitement, your energy. It is going to be a great time. I think whoever the Steelers pick, we're going to be talking about it for weeks, months, years. It's going to be wild. And this could be a pillar type of pick because this is the first round selection in the first draft after the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger. Shouting out everybody who made it to the stream. Edward Green, here we go. Yes, here we go. Indeed, for all the Steelers fans out there. Shout out to Terry. Thank you for the what's up there. We got all sorts of Steelers fans. The KG experience is in the house. Jay Quest, I'm glad you got your audio back because we want to make sure that you can hear the show. Now, here's where we do have one question in the comments. Again, if you're watching in the comments and you want your question asked on screen, you can do so by just going in there, asking in the comments. I'll try to bring it up as fast as I can. I also have predetermined questions that I have on this very already preloaded. That'll be videos that I ask. But here's a good question from Jimmy Burris. Would you rather trade up for Malik or trade up for Jameson? Oh, that's a good question, because here's the thing. I love Jameson Williams. If he were to fall to that 15 range, that would be so tempting because I don't think it would cost the Steelers too much to do that. And he, to me, if he was healthy, he would be a top 10 pick right now. And it's one of those picks where if you could get a guy who's a top 10 pick type of receiver without like selling the farm to do so, or using a year where you went 5-11 or something like that, or I guess it'd be 5-12 because 17 seasons are stupid. 70 game seasons are stupid. But if you could do that, I would go for it. And I know there's a lot of Malik Willis people out there, and I like Malik Willis as a player. I want to say, when I say the Steelers, I don't think the Steelers should draft Malik Willis. It's not because I hate Malik Willis. It's just because I think that there's other valuable players who would be available to the Steelers and at a better value to what they could do this year, while not forcing them to panic about quarterback going into this year. And to Rick's question, sitting Malik Willis behind Mitch Trubisky, that would be a cost. You would have not, your first round pick isn't helping you this year. Granted, we've seen this happen before with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. He sat basically a whole year for the Chiefs, and then he became a star. So I get that. But Jameson Williams, to answer your question, Jimmy, if I had to pick one, Jameson Williams would be that guy. So thank you very much for your questions. Keep bringing them in. We got more. Here we go, Steelers. Zachary Pendergrace, thank you so much for your comment. With Felicia, she's ready out here. Thank you very much for joining the show. Appreciate the shout out here. Jay Quest saying I'm the best in the game. I won't say I'm the best because there's a lot of people that I look up to, but I appreciate all the Steelers fans and all the NFL fans that check us out. Thanks again for everybody who's joining the stream. Again, we're going over questions pre-draft right here for about a half hour, but to get you ready for the NFL draft and who the Steelers might pick tonight, whether it is at 20th overall or later. Now, here's a good point here by Arden Thorn 5. I'd rather see the Steelers trade back, maybe get us another second rounder. In that scenario, what positions might they go for? If they trade back, I like it too, because like I've said before, their goal should, if I'm a Steelers right here and all of my top picks are gone, if Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, I mean, they'll be gone. But Trent McDuffie, if he's gone as well, if all those top guys are gone, and I guess if Malik Willis is gone as well, I'm trading back, because you know what? There's teams that are aggressive. They want top flight receivers. The Packers have already been in talks about trying to trade up and get a guy. The Chiefs have supposedly been in talks. Go back, get a later first round pick up a second, pick up a third. You want to get more picks because this is a really good, I think, top 3 rounds NFL draft to get guys up there, especially if you can get 2 picks in the top 40. My perfect trade for the Steelers, if the Steelers are trading back, is to trade back with the Detroit Lions. It wouldn't, you trade back, you could maybe get their 32nd overall pick and then their second pick of the second round, which should be the 34th overall pick. You get 2 picks in the top 40 and you keep your 52nd overall pick. You might give them a 4th round pick in exchange. So thank you again to your question, but I do agree trading back would be an interesting point there. Jimmy comes back and said, "Hey, I agree. We need to get Jameson explosive weapons to add for Mitch. I do think that needs to be part of this draft class. But from what I've heard, from what I've just done my scanning, my talking to other people that cover the Steelers, my talking to people that help me figure things out, the Steelers like this receiver class for the depth of it. I'm just not so sure that they're going to feel a need to reach at wide receiver in the first round. If it was me, I'd go get a Jameson because I really like him. But I ain't the Pittsburgh Steelers. I ain't Kevin Colbert, and I ain't Mike Tomlin. So I'll tell you this right now. I think the Steelers would happily sit back and get some of these wide receivers in the later rounds. One receiver was actually asked by one of a Steelers fan in Eastern Kentucky named Logan, who asked about Wandale Robinson out of Kentucky. Here's Logan's question.
Hey, Chris, this is Logan from Eastern Kentucky, lifelong fan. never known Pittsburgh without Big Ben, but I wanted to call and get your all's opinion on Wan'Dale Robinson and see how he'd be a good fit or not in Pittsburgh.
I think he'd be a great fit to answer your question, Logan. And also, again, please put your questions in the comment section. I will get to you as fast as I can. I'm trying to do my best job here. Thank you for all the words of support. Like my person Alan here. Thank you so much for the great job there. I appreciate it. But Wan'Dale Robinson, that guy has great hands. He looks like a good athletic receiver. I'd put him right in the slot, and he would be a top 3 receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers right away. He'd be a guy like, okay, you're rolling with him and Deontay and Chase Claypool, but you get him in the 3rd round. That's my key for Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm not trying to reach too far for wide receivers. I also really like George Pickens or Sky Moore at 52. If Christian Watson falls there, I kind of like him too as well. But again, there's a lot of 2nd and 3rd round picks, day 2 picks at wide receiver that I think the Steelers would have a high value on, whereas they probably won't get too many other cracks at a really good defensive tackle or a really good cornerback or a really good safety or a really good quarterback in this draft class, which is why I think they wait until day 2 for the wide receiver. We got a question here from Private Burnt. I believe that's what that says there. But if Pickett or Malik Willis fall to 20, do we grab him? And I guess if you're saying either or, if those two are sitting there, they're taking Malik Willis. I'm telling you right now, they love that man. They really like Kenny too, but I'm not sure if they like him at 20. I think that Kenny's a guy that they would try to trade back and see if they get later. They do absolutely want a quarterback in this draft class, but if their guy that they value at 20 isn't there, they'll be willing to take a Carson Strong in the 2nd or 3rd rounds. I have no doubt about that in my mind. The Steelers do want to add want to add things up. Shout out Felicia. Thanks so much. Hey, go check out Arthur Motes. He does great work. I have him on the show all the time. We argue all the time about Baker Mayfield and other stupid stuff. But thanks so much for riding with us here while we're getting things going. Very excited to see the picks. Nancy Perrine says, I am too. I'm excited to see how all of this plays out. I think this is going to be a wild night, one of the wildest in Steelers history. Interesting point here from Steeler Lee. If we do get Willis, we could give him a set of plays to use early on, the way the Ravens did for Lamar Jackson when Joe Flacco started his rookie year. This is true. And again, a lot of this depends on Matt Canada. And that's one thing I want to remind people, is that he is still the offensive coordinator. And this may be an opportunity for CC. Hey, how can you get creative? How can you bring an element to Steelers football that just has not been there? So that's a very good question there, Steeler Lee. I like the idea of adding those packages, and I think the Steelers would add those packages to flash him in there a little bit. And if things aren't going well at the end of the season, then you throw him in and say, hey, let's see how he does. If things are going well, you see what rocks with Mitch Trubisky. But I don't see any harm in doing that if Malik Willis is available. But this is the question that everyone's asking right now. Zachary Pendergrace, who says, is Malik truly worth it? If not, do we skip him if he's available at 20? I don't think that they skip him at 20 unless one of those top picks are there. Like in the ultimate mock draft, if you follow the Locked On Steelers podcast regularly and you see the ultimate mock draft that we did, Jordan Davis fell to me at 20. I was like, I'm taking this pick and throwing it up. That's Jordan Davis. That's right there. I'm going and getting that guy. That's how I think the Steelers would do it too. But here's the thing. I don't think Jordan Davis gets to 20. In fact, as I said before on the Thursday episode that aired this morning, I truly think there is a likelihood that the Steelers could get aggressive for Jordan Davis if he falls into that 12-13 range, because there's a lot of talk that the Ravens really like Jordan Davis as well. And the Steelers are always about winning their division. And right now, their offensive line is struggling. They're trying to put that together. The last thing they want to do is give a guy that they value extremely high. And by the way I'm seeing this, the Steelers look at Jordan Davis like he may be one of the best players in this class. Not top 10, not top 5, maybe top 3 type of players in this class. And if you see a guy like that 6 or 7 picks ahead of you, and your division rival, your nemesis, the team that you've been battling with for the past 2 decades, has a chance to get him and is going to get him, you do what you got to do to move ahead and get them. That's another way that I see them getting Jordan Davis. And then this whole thing about wait until 20 isn't available. But here's a top 5 from one of our Jimmy Burris says top 5 players I want in round 1: Jameson, Malik, Olave, Davis and Booth or Lloyd. I like this. My thoughts on this. I would switch Davis to 1. That's just my opinion because I think that he would be a pillar player for this defense for the next decade. He would be the guy that Cam Hayward hands the torch down to. He's the guy that help the run defense so that they're not the worst and maybe become one of the better groups in the NFL. And I think that he becomes the guy that he develops a pass rush. He develops his skills. And by the age he's 24, 25, Cam Hayward's ready to retire. He's on the back end of his career. Same thing for Stephon Tuitt. If he's able to come back this year, we'll see if that plays out. But Jordan Davis, he solves a lot of problems for you. And he's a very unique athlete that you don't see, very, very often in the NFL. So that's why he's my 1. I like Jameson, though. I like Malik. I really like Olave. Olave is like kind of the guy that I'm sitting here saying, like, ooh, if he's at 20, it'd be hard to pass up because I love watching Chris Olave highlights. When he was playing at Ohio State, I loved watching his games because him and Garrett Wilson were just such playmakers, and I did enjoy that. As for your number 5s there, Booth and Lloyd, I love Devin Lloyd. Once they signed Miles Jack, I took him right off all my boards because if I'm the Steelers, why am I going to put three potential starting linebackers on my roster when I have needs in so many other places? Once they signed Miles Jack, I took Devin Lloyd off. I think he's going to go somewhere like the Patriots at 21, actually, if they stay put. But Andrew Booth Jr., I've made no secret. I think that picking to get a cornerback 1 in this class would be huge. I think that this is a time when the Steelers, they have a lot of front 7 talent. They're hoping that Stephon Tuitt will be back. They added to the linebacker room. They still got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but all their cornerbacks, they're CB2s. Akella Witherspoon. Good sample size this year, little sample size, but we need to see more of him. He's not a solidified CB1 yet. Levi Wallace literally was a CB2 for the Buffalo Bills. Filled in nicely there, but not a CB1. Cam Sutton, a really solid cornerback for you, but not a CB1. You need a CB1, and this is why, if I'm looking at this draft class, Ahmad Gardner, he'll be gone. Derek Stingley, he'll be gone. The question is, will Trent McDuffie be there? Will Andrew Booth Jr. be there? And Kyler Gordon, who was Trent McDuffie's partner in Washington, is also a guy that's creeped up into first-round conversations along with Kaiir Elam. Those are all guys I would be considering if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not sure if they will because they value other players right there. But we're going to keep it moving here because we got a lot of different questions. Good question here from Anders. Excuse me, I almost said Andres. But Anders asks, do I like Tyler Linderbaum? I did. Back before I saw his arm length, and I was like, "Ooh, those are red flags." Because and here's why: Tyler Linderbaum is a heck of a college center, and if things worked out perfectly, he could end up being a good center. But one of the red flags for a center is the short arms aspect. That's something that Kendrick Green's been suffering. If Linderbaum was still there in the second, different story. He won't be. I don't think he goes top 10. I don't think he goes top 20. I think he may be ending up getting picked by the Bengals in the 31st overall pick. But one thing about Linderbaum is that with his length and his lack of raw power, there's a lot of questions that if you picked him at 20th overall and you're picking him to be Marquise Pouncey, you're picking him to be your superstar center. I'm not sure if he is the superstar center. Now, here's one point that I think is really interesting. Elliot with 2 T's, Regal, says, stop sleeping on Mitch T. I feel you, Elliot. We've actually had a lot of this. I got to give a shout out. Oh, my goodness. I can't remember their name right now. But someone called in. I think it was Ethan Brown, one of our callers. They called in, and I wanted to use your voicemail. Ethan, if you're watching this video, I wanted to use your voicemail because you called out Tony. You said, Tony, you were all about the Trubisky train. You were all about Mr. Trubisky months ago, and now you've abandoned him for Malik Willis. And y'all know Tony Serino, our guy, our homie from the AFC North Talk podcast and former co-host with me on this very Locked On Steelers podcast. He has been pro Mitch, and then he was pro Malik. So I do agree. There is an element that people should at least give Mitch Trubisky a chance. But the thing here is that Malik Willis, if all your other top prospects are gone and he's sitting there, and if you as the Steelers really believe he is a potential NFL franchise quarterback, that is a tough shot to pass up on in that question. Now, here comes a question that I know is going to get controversial for some people watching out here. It comes from Alan. Alan says, is Colin Kaepernick worth signing just as a camp arm to see what he has left? It couldn't hurt. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that tell you absolutely not. Stay away from him. He's a distraction, this, that, and the third. I'm sorry. I would make a call. I'd bring him into the office and say, Colin, what you like? I'd have him work out for me. I'd see what he's about. Because here's the thing. Colin Kaepernick's been open. He's okay with being a backup. If he comes onto a roster and he is a backup, I see this as a plus for the Steelers, especially because of the unfortunate situation with Dwayne Haskins. You can draft a rookie, you'll have Mason Rudolph, you'll have Mitch Trubisky, and you'll have Colin Kaepernick. You're back to getting your 4 camp arms, and Colin Kaepernick, you've already brought in Brian Flores. You've already have Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I believe they're going to have a black GM when they hire Brandon Hunt when all is said and done with this NFL draft process and Kevin Colbert retires. I think that there's a lot of positives to this and not as many negatives as some people might believe. I may be crazy, though, so we will see, because I've been wrong about things before. We have a good point here by Darwin, who says our defense is predicated on our defensive line. You're not wrong, Darwin. You're not wrong. The Steelers are predicated on their defensive line because this has been for the great Steeler teams of old have always been really strong up front. The steel curtain, that's what built the 70s. Casey Hampton was a huge part of why they were winning Super Bowls in the 2000s. And right now, the only reason that they made the playoffs last year was because that defensive front was one of the baddest in the NFL, and they kept getting after the quarterback. I do agree, Darwin, and that's why I've been big on getting a Jordan Davis to add to the ranks right away. So that's my point there. We have one person who says they're watching from the skies, flying back to the Berg from a business trip in Dallas. Love the show, Chris. I'm so excited for tonight. Evan, hope you're having a happy flight. Have a drink. I can't pay for it because I'm literally on the screen right now, but I hope that you're enjoying the show, and I hope that everyone's out there. Darwin also pointed out the point that I was making, drafting a top defensive lineman. I agree. We also have another traveler currently traveling in Ilha Grande, Brazil, rocking my Steelers gear. Locals have no idea what to make of all the black and yellow. Hey, Johnny Quest or Jay Quest, I apologize. Johnny Quest is actually one of my favorite kid shows growing up. I love Johnny Quest, so that's why I called you Johnny Quest. But Jay Quest, I hope you're having a great trip there, and do rep the black and gold wherever you go. It's always exciting to see that. Zachary Pendergrass says, have we done enough to build our offensive line in free agency? Do you think we'll move on it more in the draft? I do. Zachary, I do think the Steelers will draft more on the offensive line. I just don't think it will come in the first round. I do think that there's going to be a bit of a wait, but I like an offensive tackle like Zach Tom in the 3rd round. There's guys like that who I think that could fit the Steelers in day 2, day 3, and day 3. But I think that they are in a position where they're like, look, this offensive line class, outside of those top offensive tackles that are going to go in the top 10 picks, this offensive line class, it doesn't outweigh the other talent that's on the board right now. I think they like James Daniels. I think they want to give Kevin Dotson another chance. They want to give Kendrick Green another chance, but they've also prepared for Kendrick Green to fail, and that's why they got Mason Cole and brought back J.C. Hassenauer. They like Dan Moore Jr. They like Chukwuka Okorafor, but I do think they could add another offensive tackle later in this draft, maybe with a day 2 or early day 3 pick. Shout out to Darwin. He's watching us from Mexico today, so we appreciate that. Jimmy Burris asks, thoughts on drafting Ty Chandler from UNC in the 6th round to give Najee some rest? I really like his speed and acceleration. I love Ty Chandler as a potential pick. I really do. I think that Ty Chandler is a heck of an athlete, and you put him in the 6th round, I'm okay with selecting. Once you get to this, you got to understand me. People will tell you, oh, this 5th round pick was a bust or something like that. There's no such thing as a bust past the 4th round. 4th round's even. You gotta be like, you have to like put a smudge on the name of the Steelers to be a bust in the 4th round. But once you get past there, you're just throwing darts at a dartboard. You already are when you're picking in the NFL draft, but so many past even the 3rd round don't work out in the NFL. So taking a running back that late and an athletic guy like Ty Chandler, I love it, because I do think they need to add to this running back room. That is something that the Steelers need to look at, and I do think that they will eventually. So there's definitely that here. Got a question from Felicia, said, how did Kenny Pickett drop in value? But I'm holding on to hope that we're getting Connor Hayward and Isaiah Polamalu. Okay, so this is a very Pittsburgh question. So shout out to Felicia for asking it. One, you put out the Kenny Pickett and you support him because he's the Pitt guy. I feel you. I covered Kenny Pickett when he was at Pitt. Heck of a player. I think that he's a heck of a person, and he deserves to get his payday in the NFL. I'm just not so sure that the Steelers like him as much. I think the problem that people saw, they loved Kenny Pickett, his production in college, but when they saw his arm strength versus the other quarterback prospects' arm strength, it wasn't as strong. And especially with Malik Willis. That's why Malik Willis jumped ahead of Kenny Pickett, because In the NFL, you need to have a cannon. You need to be able to hit that deep ball on a rope, not on a rainbow. And I said this when I was covering Kenny Pickett last year this past season in college football. There were a lot of his deep balls that all they would get to Jordan Addison and the Pitt Panthers down the field. I was looking at it, I was like, man, there's too much air on those balls. In the NFL, that's gonna be tipped or picked off. So that's the only reason I think Kenny Pickett dropped back. But I do think a team will take him in the first round. I think the Saints could get him. I think the Panthers could get him. I don't think the Falcons would go for him, but I also think if all else fails, the Lions might end up picking him up at the 32nd overall pick. Also, Connor Hayward, I think that he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. The Steelers love drafting brothers. I don't think there's any team that really jumps at a Connor Hayward, and he's a good H-back type of extra tight end. They need a third tight end. This is a guy who could be a third tight end / your extra fullback / your special team ace / just a bad big man and a brother. And heck, they kept Terrell Edmonds' brother on the roster. I can see them keeping Connor Hayward. Also, Isaiah Polamalu. Now, for those who are the uninitiated, that is, I believe, Troy Polamalu's nephew, I believe. And there's a lot of Steelers fans that have been looking like, hey, what about him? And he's another guy that could be late rounds. They could consider him. I think less because Troy hasn't been in the building as much as Cam Hayward, of course, over the past 10 years. But they would look at a guy like that in the later rounds. So let's keep moving through our questions here. Dom says, my bro actually, hey, bro, thank you so much for joining the stream. We are here. We're going to be here for about another 6 minutes, and then I'm going to pass you guys off to the Locked On NFL podcast because we have a whole show with all of our Locked On NFL hosts that I will eventually be on when the Steelers pick. But that is what's going on tonight. I could hurt bad just from some bad PR. I'm not sure what that means, so we'll keep it moving here. Elliot says, will Sky be there the second round? My prediction, no. I think that some team is going to jump at him before 52 comes up, but if he is, the Steelers would love that pick. They love that guy. For those who don't know about Sky Moore, Western Michigan wide receiver. If you're a Pitt fan, you saw him beat up on Pitt this past year because he's that talented. But Sky Moore has Pittsburgh connections, played here, and actually caught passes from Mike Tomlin's son at Shadyside Academy playing high school football here. So, and he's a heck of a player, gets really good separation, really good athleticism, really good hands. There's a lot of upside to getting a Sky Moore. If he's sitting in the second round, oh, buddy, the Steelers would make a move there. Question here from Andrew says, which position do you see as the weakness of the Steelers at the moment? Good question. I see the offensive line as being a weakness because we just don't know what that group's going to be. I see the cornerback room as being a question mark. They got a bunch of solid guys, but no star guys. And when you have a secondary, I truly think you need at least one anchor cornerback who takes away a number one wide receiver. Ike Taylor, for being a fourth round pick, was a heck of a cornerback that gets so much shade in the city because he got beat by Demaryius Thomas in that Broncos overtime playoff game years ago. But without Ike Taylor, I'm not so sure that 2018 wins their Super Bowl. He was very important to locking down people. He gave Chad Ochocinco nightmares for years. He was shutting things down. So the cornerback room is another place that I'd look at. Offensive line, cornerback room, and of course, just quarterback because you don't know what Mitch Trubisky is going to be like. I also think they could use a third wide receiver. Moving on here because we got a lot of questions. Thank you so much to everyone showing up to this live stream right now. Eddie Long says, "What's up, Eddie? Thanks so much for joining us." We got Pies asking, we finna trade up for 3 first picks tonight on some YOLO stuff. Hey man, listen, I got some whiskey over there. If we do trade, if you see the Steelers trade up, man, it's gonna be a wild night. It's gonna be a wild night. We get that. Do I like Matt Corral? Cameron Jones asks. I like him, but not in the first round. If he's sitting there at 52, interesting pick. I'm not big on him. It's just not my MO to go get a Matt Corral early. I don't think he's a first round quarterback. If he's sitting there, that's what I would do. All right, we're gonna try and speed through some of your questions here. We've already had some Malik Willis questions. Najee coming to Mexico to represent the Steelers. Darwin says yes, he is. Najee Harris is becoming a sort of representative, a ambassador for the Steelers. That's a very good sign. That means that all things are going well there. Get me your picks. Here's what we're gonna do for the last 3 or 5 minutes here. I want the pick that you think the Steelers should make their first round pick. Put it in here and I'll bring it up. We're going to start with Lloyd. Thank you, Justin, for the black and yellow hearts here. We're going to start with Lloyd Grissom here, who says Jordan Davis is my choice for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel you there. And we have some interesting things here. We have Dark Storm who says, I think there's almost zero chance Willis is there at 20. This is how I felt about Willis for months. But the more and more I saw people saying Willis is gonna fall, Willis is gonna fall, I'm like, maybe some people are hearing some things that I'm not, and it's very possible. It's very possible, but I don't think that there's I don't think that I think that there is actually I wouldn't say zero chance, but I would say a 40% chance that he's there at 20. Moving right along, if it's not Jordan Davis, there's a lot of DT depth in this draft. I really like Travis Jones in the second round if he could last to 52, but I hear a lot of people like him in the first round. We will see how things are moving forward. But yeah, so there we go here. We're going to go through some more questions. Sorry, just scrolling here to make sure we get some people here. We have Anders saying, watching the draft from Denmark, great communication and points you're making. There are commentation. Thank you so much, Anders, for your comment. Really appreciate you. We got Corky's research saying we need Ritter, Chris, in the second, must get Davis in the first. That would be a very interesting move. If you traded up to get Jordan Davis in the first, you kept your second round, and you got your quarterback in Desmond Ritter, I wouldn't be mad at that. You got your quarterback and one of the better quarterbacks, but here's the other thing. I think you'd have to trade up again to get Ritter in the second round. He might even not last to the second round the way that I hear it. There's a lot of people that are talking about they're talking about him. Going through some things here. We're running out of time because I have to send you guys over to the Locked On NFL YouTube page soon. So we're gonna try and get some last questions here. First of all, we had Darkstorm. I think this is a really cool point. Would Ike Taylor would be in the Hall of Fame if he could catch? Oh, yes, he would, because he was a phenomenal cornerback outside of the fact that he just couldn't catch a cold. The few interceptions he caught were huge, but he didn't catch enough of them in his career. Do we take 3 wide receivers? Corky says. I think they take 2. I don't see them taking 3, especially with the signing of Miles Boykin. The Steelers like to have 6 like NFL talent type wide receivers, which means not Cody White and not Anthony Miller. Not that they say they can't play in the NFL, but those are guys that are on a practice squad for a reason. Miles Boykin, he's right now looking like your 6th guy. You have the Gunnar Olszewski too as well. You have Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. You want to draft 2 more guys. I say they draft 1 in day 2, which is the 2nd or the 3rd round, and 1 in day 3, anywhere from the 4th to the 6th round. I don't think they'll spend it in the 7th round. I think it'll be earlier than that there. Darwin comes in and says our pass rush helps our secondary. We have solid cornerbacks. Witherspoon will be the CB1, and Wallace is solid. Hey, he could be. I'm not saying that Witherspoon can't be the CB1. I'm not, because I actually like Akello Witherspoon. He's also great to talk to. But I'm just saying, to them, they can't look at this roster and say he definitely is undisputed CB1 moving forward. All right, we're gonna go through all your picks here. We have a lot of people coming in. Anders says their pick would be Tyler Linderbaum. Again, I would have said this if you asked me back in January, but as soon as the combine happened, we saw his arm length. That's what questioned to me, and his lack of bench press, his lack of overall strength. That's why I would be questioned there. We have Matthews Fiuza. Excuse me if I messed up your name, Matthews. But it says their choice is Jordan Davis. Corky's research, Jordan Davis. Arden says if at 20, Olave. I like that. Harley Davidson Service asks, will the Steelers take a Buckeye without going to the pro day? Listen. The pro day is a mark that is a visiting pro days is a mark part that you should keep track of. But you need to be able to remember that there are times, like with Mike Tomlin this year when he was at the owners' meetings, that he's going to miss certain pro days, and there are times that they have to go to other pro days that's going to make them miss certain ones. I think they take a Buckeye, just maybe not in the first round. But we'll get to that later. We have another Chris Olave pick here from Cameron Jones. We have one person, Elliot, who says Davis will be top 14. I agree. If he isn't selected by 14, the Ravens are taking it. That's my book, which is why I still say the Steelers should trade up to go get Jordan Davis. We have a Jordan or a Seen, meaning Jordan Davis or Lewis Seen, 2 Georgia guys. Heck, if they could pull away with some Georgia guys in this draft, I think that's going to be a good day. Arden says Davis isn't going to be available. I feel you there. We have Brian Williams says trade up for Stingley. Ooh, now you're getting spicy here, Brian Williams. I like the thoughts there because Stingley is a supreme athlete, and I do think that some teams are going to like him a lot. Question is, I don't know if he gets out the top 10, and I don't think the Steelers need to trade up into the top 10 for what that's going to cost. My thing is the Steelers should give up they should do their first round swap trade a third-round pick this year, and maybe either a later pick this year or a third or less pick for next year if they're trading up this year. I don't think that they should give up their 52nd overall pick. They got too many needs. But Stingley would be very interesting, especially if he fell into that 12 or 13 range. Jordan Davis from Jay Quest. I feel you on that. Wow, we have another person who's asking here. Jimmy Burris says, who should they make, Willis or Davis? I really want us to make. I'm just a huge Jameson fan. I like Davis. I'm sorry, he's my guy of this class. I think would be the perfect fit for what they need moving forward. Darwin says, wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers take a Carson Strong, in the fifth via trade. I'm not sure if he lasts to the fifth. He might because of his knee issues. But I think they like Carson Strong as a quarterback in this class. Best available D lineman in the first round, Alan Crooks. I feel you, buddy. I feel you. The defensive lineman needs to be that. But Felicia, I think that this is the bottom line here. She's like, I'm going to accept who the pick is because I just have too many to choose from. That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. Like what we doing? What we do, like we all know that that there's several ways that they could go in this draft class, and we don't. And you and I, like even myself, I've watched a ton of tape. I have hours. I have a hard drive right here that has like hours upon hours of full all 22 game footage of so many prospects, and I've looked at these people a million times, and there's a lot of different guys that I like, and that's the whole point here. I don't think that you should hate on it unless it's like Sam Howell or something like that. Then I think that they messed up. But there's a lot of different directions to go. All right. Last few ones, and then I got to send you guys off to the Locked On NFL channel. Pi says a top-tier cornerback would be my preference, but I think Jordan Davis or Travis Jones. I feel you there. Harley, we already asked that. Jay Quest says, thanks a lot for going live, Chris. You're the man. Thank you, Jay Quest. Appreciate that. And thanks, everyone, for joining me here. I have 120 people on a live stream. Honestly, this was done on a whim. This was something I was asked to do at the last minute. I didn't plan for this too much, and I didn't think that this would be here, so that was interesting. Looking at here, Felicia says, hit the like button. Too many people on here not hitting the like for the good content. Thank you, Felicia. If you are here, please hit the like button on this video. Hit the subscribe button to our Locked On Steelers YouTube channel. We put out content Monday through Friday, including our breaking news updates. There will be a short breaking news update on the pick when it happens. There will be a full episode uploaded for tomorrow that will be breaking things down. I've talked to Jenna Horner from Channel 11. If you're a fan of the show, you know who she is, and you'll love to see her on the show because we're going to talk all things about this pick and how the night played out, however exciting it will be. I'll take a couple more here. Anders says Devontae Wyatt. My thing about Devontae Wyatt, I liked Devontae Wyatt early in the draft process, but the more I looked at him, he's 6'3", so he's not overly long. He's 24 years old, so he's got age on him as a defensive lineman. By the time he'd be finishing up his rookie deal, he'd be 29. You typically want your first round pick to be a guy that's 20, 21 years old. That's just how the Steelers work. Also, he has domestic violence dispute way back when he was a sophomore at Georgia. The Steelers probably want to steer away from that, but I think that this kind of puts it up right here. Kegels Bagels says, most nervous I've ever been for a Steelers draft. So I think that's where we're going to leave it for now because I totally feel you, Kegels Bagels. There's so many people that are so nervous about this NFL draft class and what could happen for the Steelers. It could be bad. It could be great. But thanks so much for tuning in here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Again, looks like I'm breaking up here. The internet's telling me to go away. But thanks so much for checking us out here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Tune into the Lock and be there. Thanks again for joining us. I'll be there when the Steelers pick at 20 or trade up and be on that show. Thanks so much for having us. We'll be back on your screens and in your ears later tonight whenever the Steelers pick, breaking it down right here on this channel as well as on the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Thanks again for checking us out. I'll be seeing you guys soon.